right, welcome to patch 13.22. My name is Chris, and joined with me is Jason.
Hey, good to be back. We've got the mage attack speed patch here, and then a bunch of other changes that are gonna start good and turn not so good. So yeah, good to be here discussing with you, Chrissy.
Yeah, sorry this one's kind of late, and then double sorry, decided to move the Champion Judgment back a month and skip November. Guess I just wasn't really in the mood.
Yeah, you just hate Renata Glask.
No, I mean, it just kind of snuck up on me, and I just was in the mood. I did have some good ideas for it, as much as you can say that about Renata. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't feeling it. I've had a lot of migraines this past, like, several weeks, to be honest.
Gotta just take good care of yourself, man. Stop murdering the peons in your RimWorld games too.
Yeah, I just can't help myself.
Okay.
I'm
The
just,
ghosts are coming back to haunt you and give you migraines. I think
I'm
that's what's
just,
happening.
I'm just absolutely ruthless. Anyway, before we get into the actual meaningful stuff, was there any of this bullshit you wanted to talk about? The only thing that really jumped out at me is that now you can surrender with 3 people instead of 4. I actually
Well, this
think that's
isn't
kind of stupid.
Well, this is an entirely new, like mode, like sort of new mode, right? To replace blind pick. Um, where you
Oh.
actually like you choose your champion before you ever get into lobby. You choose your rune and summoner loadout, and then I guess they match you with other people, to make a team. I think you choose your lane as well. And I'm guessing they'll never match you with somebody who has the same champion because that would be weird to have like, two Kaisas on the same team or something.
That
Um,
would probably actually make people want to play it.
well, you want to do that? There's all for one. But yeah, I mean, I haven't seen any videos of like PBE quick play, but from what I've read, it does seem like they've thought through it a decent amount. It's about time. They've been talking about this for 5 or 6 years. So they're doing it with all the speed of like the Disney Corporation here. But honestly, all of the ideas look good here, and so I am sure they will cancel it after about a year.
I don't know. I feel like they should just made this a different mode and just left blind pick for like normie casuals. You know.
Yeah, I think the idea is they don't want to like divide the player base too much because then you have longer queues and such. The idea of like if you want to just get into a game really quick, that's when you were taking blind pick anyway, or if you really want to play your champion, right? And it sucked getting into a queue and then having somebody else in the blind pick just insta lock your champion before you could. Um, this to me seems like a good idea. It's replacing and making better the blind pick for the types of things that you would use blind pick for. Either still casual, normal draft pick if you want like a little bit more of a serious, thought out lobby face. I like this.
I guess that's true. I still don't like people being able to surrender with only 3 votes, though. If it was
I
up to
completely
me, I
agree.
would have it as unanimous in all queues and all game modes, because I don't think you should design something with the presumption that there's like toxic clowns everywhere in the community, you know? I'd rather give people operate on good faith, knowing that my community is toxic as fuck.
I'd rather them just clear the toxic people out of the community and actually set a policy where they expect good behavior. But I guess that's neither here nor there.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
with you yeah, I'm with you on the surrendering. But besides that, like I think that this is a really good idea for just casual play on the Rift.
dude. If I was in charge of Riot, I would have the
Uh,
most epic crackdown on like toxicity there ever was.
yeah, you don't even need to do all at once. All you need to do is just set a good standard. Once you set a good tenor, like the community takes care of itself.
I would punish
And
people
then
just for having bad games.
I'm sure you would.
And I'm not saying that would should result in like bans and stuff, but it should be
You remember when
noted.
that was reportable? Unskilled player?
It's yeah, it should be. People should realize that there's punishments to playing poorly that extend beyond just the one game that you lost. I mean, people's attitudes or people are never going to change unless their environment makes them change.
We are really burying the
Adaptation.
patch notes here, but like to some extent, I really think that more than the loss, like honestly, nobody likes to be bodied, right? Nobody likes to drag down their team, except some of the most, like completely toxic, wicked people in the world. For most people, they get angry because they also feel ashamed of themselves. So it's like, I think that's punishment enough. Yeah, I'm just a no flame guy. Like, if nobody's flaming you, you should not be flaming someone else.
Well, I have three big things. If I was head of discipline or whatever, who has the final say on all this kind of
Social
stuff?
systems, yeah.
Yeah, real ID accounts. So there's actual weight behind the accounts that you play on, and if you lose it, it's actually a big deal. And do some crazy IP stuff so people don't abuse it too much.
No
And
problem
two,
having Chinese Tencent, having access to our actual sensitive information, right?
Blizzard probably gives this stuff to the Chinese Communist Party already. What does it matter? So, and then the thing I mentioned before, where anyone that feeds does get a punishment to some degree, just playing bad or however it dictates a position could play bad. And then thirdly, all LP gains need to be on a curve. It is so stupid that everyone basically just makes the same, regardless of their contribution and regardless of how tough, difficult or easy they made the game for themselves or their teammates. That is such a wildly outdated system that they have for that.
Philosophically, I disagree with you, but like there are so many people who just ruin games. And so many people who just like don't give an F.
I know those people. If you win with one of those people,
I've actually come around on your idea.
If you win with one of those people on your team, they should literally get. I'm saying
they should get 4 LP, and you should get 40. Yeah.
Yeah, they should. There should just be a static -5 or +5 for the win or loss, and then a -15 or +15 based on how you did in the game. So someone like that could win the game and then have a net loss.
The rough thing always is that you don't want to encourage like KDA players, but
if that's what makes people actually care about what they're doing, I don't think I have a problem with it.
Yeah, like it's gotten so bad that I've somewhat come around on your point of view there. All right, how about those pings?
I'm tired of talking about the fucking pings. There's been changes to these stupid pings every patch, like the last 4 patches.
These are like
just make them all invisible. Really, I'm tired of seeing people use them incorrectly.
They're putting the tiniest band-aids onto it, right? Like if you're being question mark spammed 6 times or 3 times, it's the same message. Like I don't know what they're trying to do with that. It's probably in the right direction, but it's it's a pebble on a mountain. Nobody is going to notice this.
No, they figured this out like years ago. They should have just kept the original cross ping where they split the 1 ping into the 4 pings they did back like 8 years ago or whatever it was. And then just get rid of all of the tag pinging things where you just say, hey, that's an item. Hey, your ult's up. Hey, get rid of, hey, this is how much gold. Get rid of all of the tag ping garbage. None of that is useful other than the only one you should be able to do is showing the enemy's death timer. They should just disable it. It serves no purpose. It is just like, all it is an engine for toxicity.
And then we've got some actually worth knowing vision changes. Fog of War attacker reveal duration and radius.
This has got I like this one. This has got to be one of the last holdouts from like 2009. This change.
So if you attack from Fog of War, like you still will be revealed to enemies near you. But the nice thing is you can actually you'll fade back into Fog of War a lot quicker. You don't need to actually come out of it and then get back into it or do any type of weird dance like that. After 2 seconds, you'll be stealth again, the way I understand it. And not a huge change, but worth knowing.
Yeah, this is a holdover from the first Dota, where if you revealed yourself, you'd basically be able to see through the Fog of War where that person was for like 10 seconds. Which is like kind of a wildly outdated
Dota
just
doesn't
do
do
for
small numbers. Yeah.
if you play Dota now, if you attacked from like outside of vision, you'd like instantly be invisible again after like a half a second, unless you just kept on being in combat essentially.
Can you imagine if the numbers in Europa Universalis looked like the numbers in Dota?
I'm not sure what the games are so different. I'm not sure what point you were trying to make.
I'm just saying, like, if all the bonuses in that game happened in like increments of like thousands rather than like 0.003%.
Well, the funny thing about Dota is they never make an attempt to balance the game. The
Yeah, yeah,
the design philosophy is everything's basically broken, so it's imbalanced that way.
yeah. Our patch notes video on that would be quite short, wouldn't they?
It's a very everything's chaotic. Everyone's OP at level 6, so there is no problem with balance because basically everyone is an offender. So that's how it works in Dota 2. I played Dota 2 for like a couple hundred hours like or so.
Beautifully broken
So
it is.
well, the idea of it was they wanted to just mimic Dota 1 from Warcraft 3, so they made no effort to change anything when they made the transition, and they even went out of their way to keep the quirky like movement and physics engine of Warcraft 3 when they made Dota 2.
Yeah, and of course Dota was just a mod of Warcraft 3 where it was one guy. It was a passion project, right? They weren't
It wasn't
concerned with making an e-sport out of it.
it wasn't a mod, it was a custom map.
Sorry, yes.
Okay, let's talk to something that actually matters. Let's talk about some champions. First thing we're going to go over, so we don't have to mention even one more time the rest of this patch. All the mages got some quality of life bonuses on their auto attacks, and I think mages were definitely, I would say the enchanter supports too, were probably the ones that definitely needed this the most though. And what seems to be the case is a lot of them got faster projectiles. In my opinion, the faster projectile definitely was an issue for like 8 or 10 of the really bad ones. But one of the things I noticed here that I didn't see addressed hard enough was there are some real bad mages whose attack windup is just as pathetic as their projectile. I'm talking Anivia, I'm talking Karthus, I'm talking a few of them I'm not even remembering, but there's some really bad ones.
Mages that maybe got like modernizations in terms of their kit, but never in terms of their base mechanics. Yeah.
And first one we'll look at right here, I just want Ari's whatever. Her auto attack was always sleek and felt good. I don't think we need to talk about her. Anivia though, her attack speed windup is absolutely embarrassing. It's just she does like the whole flail with her wings, and it feels really slow and unresponsive. And if you played any time playing AD carry, you know that all of them in the modern era have a very responsive auto attack. The days of a sluggish attack speed windup on an ADC are absolutely non-existent. It would be unthinkable for a today's AD carry to have a windup like a mage does still now.
Agreed. Heimerdinger is another one that, especially since he's competing against his own.
His isn't as bad, but it's still bad.
Yeah, like it hurts him to not be able to like because the turrets are plinking down the minion at an unpredictable rate. The fact that he got it's actually a very slight buff on the attack speed and wind up. I thought it was more.
I don't really want to go into every one of these champions. Why don't you just say, give us the highlights? Faster missiles. All I can say is the people that needed the much better windup didn't get it.
That's true. I thought Singed was a strange one to give it to. But it's probably for that same reason that the poison is kind of ticking down the minion's health. I'm happy that they did this for some of the champs. Vel'Koz, who already had a really responsive auto, got better attack speed. Anivia, like you said, was one that really needed it. And just good to see that they're modernizing. I'm surprised they didn't do like a full pass and give it to every mage, support, just everyone in the game without a responsive auto.
I was just going to propose that they almost should make like a standardization where every range champion's projectile is just like 1500 or 2000 just across the board. Vel'Koz is different because he's one of only a handful of champions that has no projectile for an attack. So the fact that his windup may be goofy is kind of mitigated by the fact that it has no travel time.
Yeah, and just the benefits that you'd get from this as a mage who's getting these attack windup or attack speed bonuses. is that first of all, it's going to be a little bit easier to farm. Obviously, you can get that last hit before your minions plunk it to death. And second of all, you're not going to have to spend as much time waiting into the wave before your lane opponent harasses you.
Yeah,
So it's nice for that
there's
reason
some
too.
really bad ones that did not get the help they needed. Like I'm now that I'm thinking of like supports, like
Mm.
I think Janna, Nami, Zillions are all really sluggish too in the
Well, Janna,
modern meta.
they did give her,
She got a little okay, well whatever.
yeah.
But I feel like
Every
there's a lot that didn't get the love.
Yeah, nominated Soraka is a really slow one.
Oh yeah,
Because she's
hers is
gotta
just
like
hers might be the
fling that
worst in the
whole
game.
banana around her body. It might be, yeah.
Hers and Karthus is probably the worst in the game.
Yeah, there were a couple that I was surprised they didn't help. But overall happy to see them doing this, and I hope they continue to do it with the Mantis.
Okay,
We're gonna talk about LeBlanc individually or no?
nah. Let's just talk about Brand.
Okay, tell me about Brand.
Okay, it's time for some jungling. I feel like this change to a Blaze is finally enough. No, I'm just kidding. This is retarded. Yeah, all I'm gonna say is the changes to make the mages jungle. I just find it like counterintuitive to like the expectation of what your jungler needs to be. Now, as for the change to conflagration, I actually think this should be more of his like bread and butter skill. I think this ability is so kind of unimpactful it should be on a drastically lower cooldown. To be honest.
Um, this is great in fights where you're getting dove. You can E someone and then immediately Q them, for example.
I don't think that has
Yeah,
anything to do with the damage though. That's
right.
just
That
a
is true.
setup.
That is true, right? Like, or if you're way ahead of somebody, right, you can just run at them, E them, and they can't escape your E. So it's a nice setup for the Q that doesn't require you to hit the W first. But yeah, I agree with you because the range of using E is pretty short. It is an unimpactful ability. What I like to do as Brand though is like if any of the minion wave got clipped by the E, now they're burning, and the E will spread a very long way. I can often catch a lane opponent that's hiding behind their minions,
Yeah,
like well behind their minions, by
everyone
Eing
knows
a
that.
minion and having it spread to them.
Everyone knows that,
Well,
but
that's the impact of it, really.
I know, but how useful is it if you're
Uh-huh.
not using in the laning phase for what you said, which is basically 70% of how good it is, and if you're not setting up the stun
Mhm.
easier, which is the other 20% of how good it is, if you're not doing one of those two things, how useful is this ability?
Yeah, not that useful, right? It's not terrible to have, but not that useful. I agree. Do you have an idea for what you'd rather see the Brandy turned into?
No, I don't think it should be a different ability. I think the cooldown should
Uh,
just. They could start it a little higher, and then I think they should drop the cooldown all the way down to like 4 or 5 or something. I think it should
so
be almost more of like a dually kind of skill. I mean,
you want to see a lot of incentive for maxing it first.
no, it doesn't have to be max first. I just think it
Uh,
feels really awkward. It just. I
I
feel like he
believe
just
at
kind
max
of feels a
rank
bit
it
goofy
has.
after he throws like his Q and his W out.
I believe at max rank it has the same cooldown as your rank one stun, if I'm not mistaken. So they're made to be used together.
Well, my argument is just I just think with the low damage that it does have, I just think it should have a
Uh-huh.
much lower cooldown.
Okay.
I
I'm
think
not
it'd
going to
be more
argue with that. I
exciting
don't
to
think you're
use.
necessarily wrong. I just feel like there's so much power in his W and his R already that I don't think he needs any more than they're giving him here. And like you said, Brand in the jungle, don't do it. Please don't do it. It's terrible. If you're a jungler and you can't gank and you can't duel, just don't jungle. Especially if
Okay,
you also can't feel yourself. Yeah.
next
Next.
up, let's talk about Briar. We got some
Hmm.
less armor pen from her Q, which is kind of
Yeah.
an important thing with how much she auto attacks and stuff.
Mhm.
And I don't think the base damage is of much consequence. Most utility skills, or I mean, a lot of movement skills in the game, the damage is kind of laughably bad.
Yeah, the base damage isn't a big deal, but 35% less bonus AD on her ult is a big deal.
Yeah, I was getting there. That's definitely lost a lot of base damage, lost a
Yeah.
lot of scaling, but I would
Yeah.
argue that none of that is actually what makes Briar Briar. So, and it might have just been kind of a bit over.
I've seen some Briars get ahead with lethality, and oh boy, they hit you with their ult, and by the time they even finish the dash, they've already secured the kill through tanks, through supports peeling them. It's insane.
If we're gonna compare certain death to like possibly Urgot's ultimate or Vex's ultimate, some things that function kind of similar. The base numbers on it are quite high though.
Yeah. And then in addition to that, right, she is possibly the best duelist in the game.
I wouldn't go that far. She's definitely
all
has
the life steal and chase she has.
She definitely has unparalleled chase potential and a lot of sustain, but I don't think that's enough to say
sustain
she's the
plus
best,
damage
though.
reduction. I could see the argument for other people gangplank,
like,
Aatrox, whatever.
I still think like Jax or Fiora late game would like light her ass up, to be honest.
I think they've got arguments to make too, sure. Yeah, but Briar is definitely up there. Probably the best jungle duelist in the game, with only Jax having any chance to contest that.
And that's the thing is, even in... I think there's certain junglers that are like unparalleled in like early jungle fighting, and I don't think that's an auto attacker. I don't think an auto attacker is one of them. Like, I don't think she'll beat like Lee Sin, Xin Zhao, or Kha'Zix like early on. Or
maybe
Rengar.
Not before like level 7.
And that's just by nature of how auto attack dependent she is. The ability people are gonna be stronger in the early game.
Yeah, but for the bulk of the game, she is ridiculous at 1v1s and 1v2s. And I have no problem seeing her get nerfed because she's such a hard champion to balance, and they brought her out in a very overpowered state.
Yeah. I feel like she kind of came out in an okay state.
I also think that tanks should have a chance against her, and right now they don't. And maybe this armor reduction, percentage loss will help a little bit there.
Well, I think a dedicated tank shouldn't be able to fight someone with like the profile of Briar or like No,
but even like a fed like quasi fighter tank can't fight her either. Even if they're 6 skills ahead of her, I'm gonna bet on the Briar almost every time. She's just that good at what she does.
Okay, next up, that is definitely a needed buff for Cassiopeia's auto attack. I don't want to talk about that crap again, but she slipped my mind. She definitely needs that. Because she's so reliant on Twin Fang, like Arthas is reliant on Lay Waste, you kind of, her afterthought, or her auto attack is an afterthought, but it's definitely like hilariously bad.
I agree.
Alright, next up we got a much needed, in my opinion, buff to Dr. Mundo's built-in Titanic Hydra. This thing's already been nerfed a few times, so this is kind of just a couple extra AD here and there, but we always have this argument with the Dr. Mundo change, and I always say he was in his best state right before his rework, and you keep saying how now he's like good now or something, I don't remember.
Yeah, I thought that post rework he immediately became much better, but didn't he used to have like 5 or 6% at max rank on of maximum health on his Z?
There was a point, and I think we made this the last time there was a Mundo change, that when they very first gave him this built-in Titanic Hydra, I was willing to say that version of reworked Mundo was good. But now that it's been nerfed so many times where he used to get so much free attack damage without indexing into AD from that I was willing to say that this was a really good version of Mundo now that his ultimate has been nerfed so many million times. And that's really what I think what made the old Mundo so insanely strong, because there was no 12 situations that had to exist for the old Mundo's ultimate to be ridiculously strong. Now there's so many, like, he's got to be low, he's got to be around all these enemy champions and shit for his ultimate to be strong now. I mean, it's just, I don't know. That's what I hate about him right now. So much of his strength is situational now, whereas
Dr.
before...
Mundo still has Heartsteel.
Yeah, I mean, that's nice.
Yeah. This is a very small buff. It's really just like a partial pullback on some very big things they've done recently.
Okay, next up we got Gragas, and this is a change to something as old as time. He's had this body slam flat reduction for like 10 years or something. or longer. I'm not entirely sure at what point this becomes better or worse. Knowing Riot, I'm sure there's some kind of break point where in the late game this might be better, but in early game, 3 seconds is probably more powerful or something. Or the reverse.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. So his cooldown on this skill is 14 at rank 1, 12 at rank 5. And obviously, even a regular, Gragas who's going like mostly tanky with some AP, is gonna have maybe 50, 60 ability haste. So even if he's got like 40, 50, at best this is kind of break even at rank 5. The 3 seconds versus the 40%. But my guess is what was probably happening was a lot of people were going like 100 plus ability haste
I
with
was
Gragas.
I was just about to bring up that goofy build because flat
Yeah.
reduction would be much stronger with a ton of ability haste.
Yeah, imagine like 120 ability haste. That
Yeah.
would give you about a 5 second cooldown, 5 point, maybe 2, 3,
Urfit.
at rank 5. So to get a 3 second reduction for that, you're literally using this skill every 2 seconds.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite champs in Urf because of the body
So,
slam goofness.
yep, and then just slight quality of life on explosive cask. But like for people who weren't using like goofball ability haste strategy with Gragas, for the first half of the game, this will be a buff, and for the second half, it'll be break even. And honestly, I think this is just a smart change, right? They shouldn't be encouraging total goofballitude.
This is a straight up buff to his ultimate. If you're old enough to remember, like me, there was a reason where his ultimate used to have a different travel time based on how far he threw it, and they had to nerf that back in like season 2, 3, and 4, where his like flash E ult engage was too consistent, like in the pro scene. So they had to give it a static travel time of like half a second, because if he just threw it right down in his feet, he could throw the damn thing in like a split, like 0.1
I do
seconds.
remember seeing that in the early days of pro play. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was nerfed heavily back to hurt his engage potential. So now,
And he would flash for that often too.
well, yeah, it would be the flash ER, and then it would be basically
Yeah.
be unreactable essentially.
Dude, I remember that. But yeah, I'll give Riot their flowers on this one. This was a thoughtful change.
So this just makes his engage slightly less interactive, but not much more than it already has been. I actually think the way it is right now is pretty reasonable. There's still a window where you can't react and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then we go down to a much more disappointing change, and
Yeah.
I'm also
Why did
old
they
enough
do
to
this
remember
not
how
away?
busted this ability actually used to be in the old days, because I used to play a shitload of Graves when I was a young lad, and I'm old enough to remember this used to give him 160 armor and 160 MR in the olden times, and then there was a period where he was stacking like Hex Drinker and like there was a period where you could stack lifeline items, and he would stack Maw and Sterix at the same time, and you would get 2 shields, and they took that away, and in the same time they also took his MR away, and now every like year and a half he's been losing armor from quick draw ever since. I don't know how much this adds up now, but I'm sure it's a long way from 160.
Oh yeah. I don't know exactly how many stacks he gets. I think it's 5 max, 4 or 5.
Oh no, it's like 10 or 12.
Oh, it's 10 or 12 max, so that's not bad. He can still get to at least as of last patch 160. Then if it's 12, he can still get past 160.
It's one of the things I think that makes him really special, that he can duel the other like 80 carries and stuff, because
Check
he
him real
has
quick while
so
we're
much
talking
free
if I
armor.
can. But yeah, like Graves is a champion that I really miss having like as an ADC, as a bot laner. I liked having like a tanky bot laner that kind of got in your face. I know that to some extent,
Yeah, it's 128.
Nyla and Samira, it's what?
128.
128 off of what, 16, so that's 8 stacks, I believe. Yeah, that's 8 stacks.
No, it's 128 now. But there
Based
was
on the
times where it
14
was
stack?
like 140, 150, 160, 180 at one point.
14 doesn't divide into 128. It has to be as of last patch. It was 128. So that means that it's dropping to 14 times 8 is 112. Math, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Ivern, what the hell is this? Why are we spending time on this?
I don't know. Let's just talk about Janna instead.
Okay.
Now, I actually don't really have anywhere near as much to say about this as you much think, because almost all the changes here are just oops, I fucked up, Riot buffoonery, revert nerfs of stuff she actually had 3 and 4 years ago. Like, they're
Okay.
just reverting the Zephyr change, they're reverting the Eye of the Storm, like, synergy with her knocking up people around. I feel like the only cool thing to talk about is how her shield doesn't decay now really fast anymore. So
Was her old?
that's basically
Uh-huh.
just a revert too. So this is basically just a giant revert of
Was
stuff
her
that
old passive to give you bonus damage on autos?
with her E.
It
Oh,
was.
oh no, her passive. Yeah, she had
Yeah,
that
her
like 3 years. She had that like 3 years ago for a few
I
months.
remember they changed her passive to be the tailwinds to traveling near her, traveling to her and away from her. But so the old passive was just bonus to damage based on her move speed.
She had both, I think, for several months.
Jeez.
I don't understand. I don't really think it was too strong. The annoying thing is, at that time, there was a build where people would just build her like Brand with like Zephyr Max and just W harass, and it was strong
uh
kind of for a time, and it was annoying. People, you
I remember
remember
that.
when Soraka was doing the Equinox Max?
Yeah, I do remember that. That was kind of weird because I never thought that was smart.
Well, it wasn't smart, but the base damage on that ability was ridiculous if you
Yeah,
maxed it.
and it does hit instantly. There's no avoiding Equinox.
Yeah. Same kind of thing with her a few years ago. So basically, this is
Yeah.
returning her to like a 2020 straight or state.
So there are a lot of changes here. For people who don't remember what she looked like 5 years ago, why don't we go through skill by skill?
Well, a lot of it's not even worth talking about. She loses the movement speed, which is kind
Yep.
of stupid, and now she gains the laughable on hit damage on her
Yeah, this is going to
Zephyr.
make her a lot less slippery.
Yeah, I think the slipperiness was kind of important. I really don't see a reason why she couldn't have retained both passives. I feel like she's very far from being an oppressive support or an unfair support or an overpowered support. I've always found her to be a very balanced champion, to be honest.
Yeah, she does one thing really well. But yeah, I think that Riot has some weird obsession with giving mages and supports. I guess as a supposed reason to use auto attacks, they just put like bonus damage on their auto attacks every few seconds. And this is just another case of that. Honestly, it's pretty stupid. Um, I think that that's just like you're adding fat to a champion's kit. Mages and supports generally don't want to spend their time auto attacking, and once you get past the laning phase, can't spend their time auto attacking. So just give them something that feels better to use, something that's more interesting. Like this is really lame. You've got Zoe, you've got Renata Glass. It's like it feels like they have a tendency to do this when they don't have a better idea.
Well, they really didn't have a better idea because this is just an old idea.
That's a fair point, Chrissy.
We can just gloss over her
Talon.
Q. It just got a little more damage. There's not really a hell of a lot to say about it. It doesn't do a lot to begin with if you're not building AP.
Yeah, but importantly, like 90 mana cost at level 1 means you can't use this for harass anymore. Like, let's not sleep on that.
If you're using it for harass, you're kind of being a silly goose.
I don't know. I often do use it for harass as Janna, partially because it just doesn't feel like there's anything else to do in lane sometimes. Obviously, that the best use for it is to save it for appeal, and it will still do that. You'll still snapcast it at 90 mana, to slow people down as they're chasing you. The one place I actually do use it sometimes in lane besides those two cases is when I take Glacial Augment on Janna. I'll throw out some tornadoes, and if it hits, that'll sometimes give my ADC the chance to make a good trade. And I'm not gonna do that anymore at a 90 mana cost. Like, damn.
I feel like so much of what makes Janna good is that she's reactionary instead of proactive. Like,
He's the single best like peel artist in the game.
yeah. And that's not to say you
Lee-
can't make some cool plays by like flash ulting people in weird directions, but so
yep.
much of her strength is just reacting to shit that's happening.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that not another champion can really say anywhere near as well as Janna can.
Yeah, I can make the argument for Lulu. But even then, I think Janna outclasses her at Peel by a little bit.
Alright, next we got Zephyr. We got less damage, so that makes her passive feel good. Textbook contradiction there. Then we got some less cooldown.
Yeah, much lower cooldown.
So, yeah, whatever.
Less slow. It's basically a more spammable, circulatable skill you'll be able to use 2 or 3 times in a fight, depending on your ability haste. But also will not have quite the impact that it used to.
And then, in my opinion, the most interesting change here, she doesn't get the heal and shield power anymore for knocking up. Now she gets the cooldown reduction. I personally hate this because I'd rather just have less abilities that are more impactful. And this is just the frustrations compounded even further by not only does she get the cooldown refund now, but they increase the cooldown substantially, thus kind of making any potential interesting effect this would have had is virtually negated.
Yeah, unfortunately, pretty much right.
So it's
like
basically like a nerf, even though it's a buff.
I like the idea of kind of giving supports, especially enchanters, some type of like a snowbally way to reward a good move in a fight. To reward a good move in a fight with more protective power. That's something that we haven't really ever seen before. To some extent, they tried doing that with Ivern's Trigger Seed in a weird way. I like the idea here, but like you said, the 4 seconds combined with the fact that it's a longer cooldown now is not that impactful.
What would have been really cool,
and it's not like they even give you a reward for like knocking up multiple people with a tornado. Because that's the most skillful thing you can do with Janna.
That's what I was gonna say. They should have made it so.
I can read your fucking mind, Chrissy.
Yeah, they should have made it so you can shield someone and then be cool enough to know you're gonna get a huge knockup. Now they would need to make it like only
10 or 15% per character. Yeah.
Yeah, they need to make it only half as effective for like a point blank Q. The fully charged Q can give like a big free fun. And then they need to reward you for knocking back like the whole enemy team with Monsoon. That should be like an instant second E or something.
Funny story.
That would have made you feel cool.
Funny story. When I saw Eye of the Storm, for a moment until I started reading the skill more, I was thinking that was her ult. I forgot that Monsoon is the name of her ult.
Yeah, that would feel really cool to be able to do that.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, cool, like 20% cooldown reduction on your ult? Bet they gave it a really long cooldown, but what a cool way to really make her spicy. No, just 4 seconds on the, not even 4 seconds.
And they added that shield to her ultimate, too. Can you believe it?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Like, that would have been a cool spicy thing to do to let her ultimate refund some of the shield cooldown rewards for Tornado. They really just like I wouldn't say they shit the bed here, but they kind of like they walked up to a giant mess. They kind of like took like a feather duster, like dusted like a couple square inches of the mess, and then decided, I've done enough, and walked away.
I'm just glad our ultimate's on like a 12-second cooldown now, because that's basically half as long as it lasts.
What do you mean our ultimate's on a 12-second cooldown?
I was joking because you thought Eye of the Storm was her ultimate.
Yes, okay, I get it. Very funny.
Okay. Next
one question for you: do you have a preferred mythic item for Janna?
Yeah, the Athene's Unholy Grail one, because I just...
Echoes of Helya? Yeah.
I would have felt much better since that had a heal and shield amp, and this used to have a heal and shield amp. But I think I would still pick that one just because I don't think of Janna as someone that needs to be doing damage. I would fully index into like the ultimate and the shield strength, you know?
Yeah, a lot of people bring the Shurelya's on Janna just for even more movement speed.
Yuck.
And I do think that since she can't peel herself quite as easily now, there is an argument to be made, but I am a fan of Echoes of Helya on her as well. And you can use Imperial Mandate depending on the game flow as well.
Yuck.
What?
Yuck. None of that.
Yuck to what? Shurelya's or Imperial?
Both of those.
Well, Imperial's no longer the mythic. I'm saying you can combine that with Echoes of Helya.
That thing just.
for quite a bit of like bonus damage if your ADC is lacking it.
I feel like the way Jen operates, after you
Uh,
get your mythic, you might as well just go AP, even if you don't have a lot of gold, because it's not like she doesn't do a lot of damage, and all of her power is the potency of her abilities. So I feel like you might as well just go AP. Like when I
Heroic is
play
like
her,
50 AP, I think.
the last like 8, she's actually probably my after Lulu, she's probably my favorite support. Last like 7 or 8 years, after like you get your mythic or before they had mythics, I would just go Archangels, Soul Stealers, and Rabadons, and like just go for the big shit. And if you're even remotely ahead, it just makes her ultimate and her E so incredibly strong.
Yeah, I've seen you put some like ridiculous shields on people going all AP gen. I remember the days when supports actually had to buy a sightstone. That you would just skip the sightstone, and I always thought that was dumb. But man, your shields were big.
I feel like, playmaking, indexing into playmaking potential is like a path of strength onto itself. I'm
I
all about
absolutely
the
agree with
sight
that.
stuff. The
Yeah.
sight stuff is another argument. I'm not going to say that's dumb. It's just a different
Yeah,
play
team
style.
vision is more important. But as far as like any other items she would buy, I'm with you. Like AP Janna, there is a case to be made there for sure.
I know her ultimate is literally like game changing if you have a lot of AP. It's like 150% or something crazy.
Yeah, totally agree. She has karma tendencies.
Okay, next up we got Cassidon. I haven't really seen him played a lot lately. It's kind of sad. He was like my favorite. He was one of my favorite champions a long time ago, like my third or fourth favorite champion. He's like scaling wise, he's been in an absolutely powerhouse state the last few years. I don't really think this is going to change much, considering historically his ratios were worse than this.
Yeah,
In
I
terms
totally
of
agree. He is a powerful champion right now. The game is in a state where scalers do really well, and
yeah, the
yeah,
big
because
thing
if you
with
can't close,
Cassidon over
like
the years.
particularly, yeah. Sorry, let me just finish that sentence. Particularly below high elo, it's very hard to end a game early. High elo players can do it, but if you can't end the game early, all the comeback mechanics reward scaling.
Yeah. All I was gonna say is the big thing with Caston. If you like look at his patch history of like the historical numbers on like his Q, his E, or his ultimate, they all used to have absolutely preposterously high base numbers. Then over time, through like dozens and dozens of nerfs, his base numbers have been like absolutely the pits right now. I don't think any of them even go over 200 at like rank 5. And to make up for that, now he
Sure.
just has absolutely ridiculous AP scalings.
Yes, yes, yes. He scales like crazy with the AP, and he also has very short cooldowns on his abilities in general. Even the ones that with long cooldowns reduce.
Yeah, I'm fine with this. I think he's in a very strong state. He's just not very popular because he's kind of frustrating and risky to play.
Yeah, he is risky to play. You take a lot of bullying at the beginning of the game, and yeah, and he takes more skill than a lot of mid laners do.
And his wave clear is still poo poo caca.
Oh yeah, yeah. As is the case for most melee mid laners.
No, I don't think that's true. Most of the assassins may have good wave clear.
Generally, I mean, obviously, Static Shiv helps them out a lot, but
Like Echo, Fizz, Galio, they all have decent wave clear. Caston just has terrible wave
Galio's
clear.
hard to CS on. Galio's hard to CS on without getting popped.
You can say he's hard to CS on. You can't say he has
Uh,
bad wave clear because all of his
okay,
abilities
you
are
know what?
wave
That's
effect.
a fair argument. That's a fair argument, right? Like they can wave clear if they're not being harassed at decent speeds. It's just hard to actually do that without being harassed.
And Echoes is absolutely brain dead.
Echoes is good, yeah. Echoes is good and very easy. But
And like
I don't totally think of Echo as an assassin so much as a burst match.
people like Zed, Talon, Fizz, if they want to, they can clear the lane fast. Like Fizz's Emax, which has been buffed recently, will just one hit the whole wave when it's sitting together.
And speaking of assassins with great wave clear, we've got LeBlanc, who they actually did want to mention. They actually did increase the attack speed ratio back to 0.625. So that is a reversion of something they did recently to completely eliminate her ability to buy attack speed items. Now she can again, and I think some of the other changes that they've made to her means that beyond Static Shiv, you probably don't want any more AD items on her.
Okie dokie. Let's
All
go
right.
to Neela, because this is more significant.
Yeah.
I actually really, for how old this champion kind of is now, I haven't seen this champion in so long in like a regular game. It's actually
We
kind
also
of
haven't seen
sad.
her in the patch notes much.
At one point, I thought she'd kind of find a place in the jungle since she has that really easy cleave on her Q and stuff. But I haven't seen her bot like since like the month she came out, honestly. And the thing is, she's like a monster in the late game, like a true terror in the late game with how much free crit, lifesteal, and bonus damage she gets when her Q is on.
Uh huh.
The thing is, I guess she must just be a real gamble in the laning phase, I imagine. I feel
My
like she's kind of like an even more all in version of
Samira.
Samira. Yes, I was forgetting her name. Whereas, like, if you don't make good on all of your aggression, you're basically so far behind. And since her auto attack range is like 225 or something
Uh
absurd,
huh.
it's probably a real hard time.
Yeah, her wave clear is very good. Actually, my experience with her has been that she's been very good in lane and pretty weak in the mid game. Maybe she does recover a little bit and make a lot of go off plays late. But I feel like she starts strong and then has a power trough through the mid game at the very least. Um, she must have been popular in pro play or something because this is a pretty big nerf on her ultimate, don't you think? 28 to 20% bonus AD per tick, which I think is every quarter second.
Uh, it is a nerf, but so much of her ultimate is around the sustain and the CC potential. The damage
Uh-huh.
component is kind of an afterthought. It's not very good from that perspective, even when she first came out. Like you do it for like the Oriana effect and the sustain. It's not the damage isn't very good.
I mean, if you hit every tick on it, it looks like it's 200% bonus AD now. It used to be 280 until just now, so that's minus 80% bonus AD ratio, which sounds pretty big, but I hear you. I hear you. The sustain is definitely important too. But again, the sustain is going to be a lot less because it's based on the damage that she deals to champions.
Yeah, it's really about the playmaking, you know. You run in
And
there, you turn your dodge thing on, and then you do
and
the
a lot less
Oriana.
damage means a lot less sustain. So I actually think this is enormous now that I'm looking at it again. I've gone from thinking it was huge to thinking it's enormous. I have to be honest, I haven't watched the pros this year, and I don't know what or why Nyla was such a terror that they decided they needed a nerf this big.
I imagine it's just because the laning phase tend to drag on for 45 minutes in the pro scene, and if you let
Uh-huh.
her get a good start, I think she is probably the highest DPS AD carry in the game late game just because of her unique steroids she gets from her Q and the absurd amount of lifesteal she stacks and the free insane amount of armor pens she gets from her Q. And you put all those things together with the when her Q is on non-stop late game, which means she's always doing more than 100% of her AD, which means she's critting harder than all the other standard AD carries. I mean, I feel like she's just unparalleled in the late game from a DPS standpoint.
Better than any explanation I can think of. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like come at you really quick and just like goon squad into you teams. You know, the Aurelias, the Aatroxes, the Swains, the maybe even the Gallios. Who knows? We're getting popular in the pro scene. I'm just speculating here, but Nyla obviously works very well with those. As does Samira, as does Zeri to some extent. And yeah, I mean, to take a nerf this big, she must have been, both popular in high level play and very successful.
I don't really think it's that big of a nerf. Like, I know her ultimate does damage and it does less damage,
Yeah.
so it heals for less, but it really is all about the like team fight or the playmaking or the piling on effect. It really is not about the damage. Her DPS is so consistent with when her Q is on, which is nonstop, like very quickly in the game. It becomes on nonstop.
I hear you.
That it's just
Um,
Ultimate is so much about the playmaking effect, you know,
yeah, no, I
the
definitely hear
setup.
you on that. And I agree with what you're saying to a large extent, but I just see it as being bigger. Just the fact that it's 80% bonus AD as a nerf, not like the skill is 80%. That is a nerf of 80%. Plus, it feeds into the healing. But I understand there's a lot more that her ult is doing and that she can do even without her ult. I'm just saying this seems like a just a monumental change in numbers. Yeah.
I guess so, yeah.
All right. Your boy Rammus. We're taking down some more armor on Rammus because I guess Freak was unhappy that there was one champion that could counter his items.
Well, Freak decided to give him 10 back this time.
Oh, they increased it. They increased it. Oh, how nice of you, Freak.
But I think it was at like 120 or something at one point, so.
He probably wrote a message to Rammus, don't say I never gave you anything.
Yeah, I'm honestly shocked anytime Rammus would ever receive a nerf. It's kind of silly.
In this meta, yeah, I
No,
gotta
I mean,
agree.
not only is he very popular, but it's my
Uh,
opinion that he's also a very balanced champion, though.
I mean, traditionally, I think he's been a strong champion. Like, he brought more to teams than most champions did. But in this meta, yeah, he needs help. He doesn't need nerfs.
I don't think he needs help because the few times you do see a Rammus, it can
Right.
sometimes look like it's almost unfair how much damage he can do to an 80 carry.
Uh-huh.
Like, if you combine his passive and then his passive gets stronger with when his defensive ball curl is on, and then of
That's all
course
nice until late game when they shred
and
him.
he's
I don't even
always
think
running Thornmail, and then he's always running Sunfire Cape or something. So he does
do
absolutely destroy 80 carries still.
do any of those even reflect item damage from the auto attacks?
If it's like on hit damage like Bork, I
Yeah,
think you do take some
Kraken
bonus
Slayer.
stuff. Well, that's
It
true damage. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think that I'm almost sure that Thornmail doesn't take care of that. It's possible that
Well, Thornmail doesn't interact with on hit
Ultimo does.
damage. It just does flat damage when you auto attack someone.
I thought it was flat plus a percentage. They just changed it to completely flat.
It's been completely flat for
No, I mean they
several
changed it a few
years.
years ago, but I thought they changed it to flat plus a very very small percentage, like 1.5 or something.
I don't remember that.
Okay,
That
I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
that sounds like way too small for it to be even consequential. If they're not going to make it 10%, they might as well not even have it.
I agree with that. Um. Oh yeah. Now it's 10 plus 25% of your bonus armor on the Thornmail. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think for like 6 or 7 years it was even worse than that, and then they recently buffed it a bit.
That's correct. Yeah, I'd forgotten about the bonus armor ratio on that. Anyway, yeah, I'm of the feeling that Rammus needs help just because the on hit effects are so powerful now. But yeah, Rammus can shred an ADC until late game. I just feel like in late game he needs some help.
Yeah, maybe.
Fun champion, really fun champion. I love the new ult that they gave him a few years ago.
Yeah, I suspect he's on a secret list to probably be reworked within like the next 2 years, though.
I mean, you could put him on our list to rework in January if you want.
Maybe. I I think it'd be hard to get away from where he is right now because I feel like the Rammus that exists now is like so Rammus that I'm not sure what other direction to take him in because it honestly just feels like what he is appropriate, you know?
Yeah,
It's
like
hard to go in a different direction.
stick to auto attackers and make them focus you. I like that on a champ. I think it's pretty cool. Um, yeah, if I were at Riot, he'd probably be one of the last 30 champions that would need a rework right now. Like I think his design is good. He just needs buffs.
See, we might think that he's kind of cool the way he is, but
Uh,
if I know Riot, I'm thinking like this champion's got a low play rate. He's not very exciting, even when he's ahead. What does that even mean for a Rammus? And then they're probably concocting all kinds of flashy, crazy shit for like his rework. You know,
if they make it flashy and fun enough, I have no problem with it. I
before we
just
know it,
say
he's gonna end up as like a
rework
Veruza.
Shyvana first, guys.
Oh yeah, there is a universe that
I
they can
think they
do with
actually are gonna
Shyvana.
get her this year.
Oh yeah, I mean several years ago they put out that fake poll where they said like which champion would you like us to rework first, like pretending that they're not just gonna rework all of them. So
I
stupid.
love you.
Like, obviously, they were going to rework them all. And they've already
Uh,
reworked, like, Udyr. I think Mundo, Udyr, Shyvana,
and their
Nocturne were all on
balance
that
team
list.
can shove it. No, but that's very funny.
Okay, let's go on to Senna.
Hmm.
This is kind of a disappointing change since his heal is already pathetic and the base damage is also pathetic, but since it's kind of tacked on to her auto attack, I can forgive that a bit. But the heal, I mean, come on, man.
I love this. I love
I
this.
know you think she's busted or something. I actually
I
think
think she
she's
is
one of the.
busted. I think she's also one of the most annoying supports in the game to go against. She's an ADC peel artist that also can just chase you down from any distance, hit you from any distance. Doesn't even need any type of econ. Yeah, this champ, I love seeing this. I especially love seeing a reduction on the heal because of all the things that like an ADC peel artist support should have. A heal is not one of them. Sorry.
Dude, she is far from being a peel artist, man. Come on.
Turn that thing into a shield.
I'd be fine with that. As long
Turn
as the
that thing
shield didn't
into a.
last for like half a second.
That'd be fine. You can make it a couple seconds and even make it a little stronger than it is now, than the heal is now.
I don't
But
think they'd ever do that because that'd
there's no
basically be
way
like
she should
giving
be
her
able to
locket.
sustain like that, especially since she can also build lifesteal and sustain herself that way.
I think she's one of the best design champions they've come out in the last few years.
Yeah, she is to you what Pike is to me.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
We are never gonna see eye to eye on that, my friend.
Pike is the worst.
Ah,
Alright, next up
yeah.
we've got Seraphine, and she did get a bunch of nerfs in the last patch, and that ain't stopping anytime soon. We got
Right.
more nerfs to her pathetic locket ability, which is not even... It's just terrible. Another nerf to that, and then we did get a buff on her passive, which is something I thought they were going to do
I don't
last
know if
patch
this
when
is
they
a
nerfed
buff, my
everything.
friend.
Well,
I don't know if this is a buff.
you don't think it's a buff?
It breaks even at 50 AP at rank 1 and let me see, 2% versus 300 AP at level 16. So I think it's completely reasonable for Seraphine to have 300 plus AP if she actually reaches level 3 of her ult. This is a nerf. This is a slight nerf, but it's a nerf.
Well,
And then the other skills are also nerfed here.
if it lost base numbers and lost a ratio, you could call it a nerf. If it buffed the base numbers and nerfed the ratio, you can't really call it explicitly a nerf because
Not necessarily explicitly. Like if she's going the 0 AP Seraphine, where she just builds her support item and then builds stuff like Ardent Sensor, Staff of Flowing Water, and Redemption, then this is a buff to her passive. But again, the break-even points at level 1, 50 AP, and that's also at level 5. I think it's reasonable for her to have 50 AP from runes and the components of her mythic at level 5. And then at level 16, where she rarely even gets in a game, it breaks even at level at 300 AP. At level 15, it's breaking even at 200 AP. Most of the time, she has more than 200 AP at level 15, so this becomes a nerf. It's just the math of how much AP she has versus what level she is.
yeah, to be honest, prior
Mhm.
to last patch, I was actually
Mhm.
pretty happy with the state she'd been in for many months, where she hadn't received like a change prior to that.
Uh-huh.
This is actually one of the most recent support I've actually picked up. I didn't really like the state that she was in before last patch.
I
I
like her
don't
as
feel
a
like she
champ.
was broken, and I don't feel like
Uh-huh.
she was too strong, and she was still potent enough with like AP, and still just I don't know. I don't like
I
all
actually
the
thought
new
she was
stuff.
weak. She did do a lot in games, but she died so much and gave so much gold to the other team. At least in like the the medium elo gold, platinum, emerald games that I play in. That I don't know that I would have said buffer because I'm sure she probably is pretty good at the high levels. But in my games, it seemed like she was not a great support to take. I know that some of my friends, hate it when they have a Seraphine on their team. Um, and yeah, so it sounds like you were going on to say that like she was in a decent state, but all the nerfs recently have made her kind of pointless to play, right?
I build her just like I build Janna because I think she is only good with a lot of AP because it
But then
boosts
they're
her like
nerfing you even
utility
harder here.
skills, and
Yeah.
her like ultimate double Q combo is like absolutely devastating in like team fights.
Yeah, if you can hit 3+ people with that,
Yeah,
that's a really good combo.
and then don't forget like the ultimate, the double high note. I mean that's literally like 4.5 seconds of like CC. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, but they've been really draining all of her damage and even a
Yeah,
lot of her
yeah,
AP utility recently.
yeah.
I always thought that it would be nice if they gave her a little bit more like protective ability on her W, and they've
Maybe
just been
just
going
for
the other
her.
direction since they released her.
Maybe just gives it to her when it's on instead or something.
Um, perhaps you could do it that way, or even for her team. I mean, it's not like she really provides a lot of protection besides the CC that she brings.
The big bummers with all these like nerfs now, like the question of her like even being able to go mid now is basically kind of forfeit.
Yeah, I have
Between
to.
now, if she was laning against someone slow like Anivia or Azir or Twisted Fate, she could still go mid and be just fine with her Q to clear
Yeah,
stuff. But now it's kind of now it's kind of a wash because
maybe they could make her a jungler. They could give her bonus damage to monsters.
I feel like the mid fantasy was pretty cool because if she actually has like the gold of a solo laner, she is really strong, really fast because her Q is extremely potent.
Completely agree. Like this is really sad to see. And by the way, like if they actually did give her like bonus damage to monsters on her Q, she would be a better jungler than Brand.
Yeah,
Like at least
actually.
she can like get in and start a gank from long range and hold people still for a while.
Yeah, you're right. Between the high notes and movement speed and the charm and all that, yeah.
But no, let's give Brand 6 different monster damage buffs. Yeah. Anyway, sad to see. I did like Seraphine mid as well, and I haven't read any of the official patch notes because I know you don't like me to read the explanations. But I would have to imagine that they're saying something tantamount to we are intentionally making her a niche pick only for mid lane, and really trying to place her in the support role.
If I'm not mistaken, when she originally came out, I believe she was advertised as a mid laner.
She was. I wonder also if maybe they've seen a lot of her at AP carry bot. Because I mean, it would make just as much sense to have her there with a support.
That would be interesting because she packs a wallop if she gets the farm. I mean, I feel like that's probably
Yeah.
still true. It's just nowhere near as true now.
Well, if you can't pack nearly as much of a wallop, they've nerfed her AP ratio so many times in the last 3 months that I mean that wallop has been reduced to a whimper.
It's a bummer.
It is sad.
Just have to
Yeah,
stick
I
to
haven't seen a
Zilia.
pop star take that much of a downfall since Chris Brown.
All right,
Thank you. I'll be
next
here
up.
all week.
Okay. Next up, we've got Tahm Kench, and we've got some less on hit damage on his passive. Don't know how I feel about this. He's basically got one playstyle, and that's only to go top and only be an obnoxious bully.
Yep. This will reduce that. Actually, one of my friends had checked the Tahm Kench play rates and win rates recently. He was sitting at like a 52 to 53% win rate, which is very high as of last patch, and had like a decent, had like a high pick rate as well. I think it was like maybe twice the average top lane champ.
He is very
Uh,
snowbally.
yeah, his play rate plummeted on this patch, but still has a good win rate. Yeah, we've talked about him before. Very, very good at cheesing the lane and putting pressure on. Later on, becomes a really good tank for your team. But he's probably most well known for just those cheesy, chases and engages in lane early on.
I can tell from your way you said that you've played some Garen against this guy. Am I right?
Yeah, a few times, but I've also watched my Tahm Kench friends just wreck people.
Yeah. Okie
Uh,
dokie. Well, let's see. I'll go down a ways and more ways and another long way. Oh, I guess we're done. Unless
that it? I think that is it. Yeah, a
yeah.
bunch of mage changes, some stupid basic auto attack animations 50-50 for Seraph. And yeah, that is it. That is all our changes, ladies and gentlemen. Was this one of like the one or two shortest patches of the year?
I think it's probably the shortest, the second shortest, because I remember a few months ago there was a really short one, probably
Even we
before
probably
MSI
almost
or
got this
something.
done in an hour.
Damn, if anyone needed a fucking wind-up buff, it was like Zillion and Vigor. Holy crap. Just now noticed they didn't even get one either. Theirs is awful.
That's true. Although it's definitely nice with Vagar having the higher missile. Obviously, you want to use your Q on most of the wave, but man, minions were attacking after me with the Vagar autos and hitting the other minion before I could.
Okie dokie. Well, that does
Alright.
it for patch 13.22. I'm sure there'll be probably at least one or two more before we get to discuss what the next silliness of the preseason will be, because obviously you got to rework half the game when that time comes
My
around.
guess is we'll probably get one more, and then I'm guessing in December they'll probably have preseason out because they're going to want to test all the new items. I am nervously excited for it.
Well, they're going to want to test all the new items, right? They're going to want to test the new masteries. Then they're going to want to test the new jungle. And then they're going to want to test all the new champions.
Don't forget the new turrets. Don't forget the new turret.
The new map. The new the new client. Yeah.
The new behavior systems that just like if you look at the screen the wrong way, it gives you a chat restriction.
That's just for starters. The things they'll probably change.
You'll be happy with that. But seriously, I think they are getting rid of the idea of mythic items. So there will be a lot of item changes in the preseason, I would expect.
Yeah, they basically are going to have to change every item in the game to compensate for that change.
Go
figure.
And I'm kind of nervously excited to see what they came up with because we're not in a good state now, and sometimes you've got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet.
Okay, we'll give a really short answer just as a prediction of the future.
Okay.
Will all now? I don't know. I could think of a goofy scenario where they go either way. Will all of the mythics become as weak as the current legendaries, or will they make all the legendaries as broken as the current mythics?
All right,
because you know they're going to do one stupid thing or the other, right?
All right. Ask for a really short answer, but then ask a really long question, huh? Based on the way they've been balancing items recently, I think they're going to go the other way and make them all really strong.
They're going to make all the legendaries really strong to match them.
I think they're going to be like almost mythic level every single one.
That's what That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
All right, just assuming the months and then that all those changes that'll cover all of the patches between next January and next like July or August, right? Because that'll be such a mess of shit. Because then we'll have stuff to talk about all the next year.
On the other hand, I'm really looking forward to the second durability update in 2028 when they finally try and help champions survivability catch up with these crazy items.
I'm just waiting until they take all the items and runes out of the game, and then you just get everything as soon as you level. So when you hit level 2, you just automatically get your Bloodthirster, if you're an 80 carry, of course. And then when you get to 18, you don't even go back to the shop, you just get your full build. Because
how about they take individual levels out of the game and just give your team one giant level?
Like Heroes of the Storm. Yeah, exactly. I played that for about a month till it got like insanely boring because there's no satisfaction in it. So, oh man, yeah. I mean,
in all honesty, I don't hate some of the stuff that they're doing. It's just some of it is really, really stubborn and pig-headed, and they're going the wrong direction.
I think they're just taking a hard look at like World of Warcraft, and we're like, how many things can we tie to just like the game timer? I think that's the direction this game is going, and it's like slowly going towards ARAM and slowly just being like, how many things can we tie to just leveling up? All right, enough of the tinfoil.
All right. Yeah, we can throw away the tinfoil. I don't even need to ask if they're going to take skill ranks out of the game.
No, I predict that'll probably be one of the last things that'll stay the same.
It'll just automatically get like one rank in each skill at level 4 8, 12,
Well, what you
18.
do is you won't even
Uh-huh.
put the points in the skills. When you're in the champion select, you'll just pick your loadout, and then as soon as you level up, it'll just automatically do it, right?
That'll be the next version of Quick Fit,
And
Chrissy.
you go to your fake masteries, which are reconfigured for the 412th time, and you're like, well, I want my glitter lance max loadout, and so instead of picking up anything, as soon as you get to 2, it'll just be like, whoop, it'll just do it for you, and then items will just soon follow.
All right, all right. Enough tinfoil. We're gonna have to send you to the white padded room if you keep going.
They'll just remove individual gold, and then everyone just puts the gold into the nexus, and it just buffs the minions instead. So you don't use gold for yourself anymore. You just buff them as siege minions.
The Nexus is just one giant Baron buff.
That's right. You just spend it to pimp out your army, your minion army. Like guys, we got to pitch in to give the turrets critical strike. it'll be like that. Don't you want the turrets to heal 1 HP per second by themselves? Guys, put in all your gold.
I'm just looking forward to the days when you're like, oh god, I remember how good things were back in season 13 before they messed up the whole game.
Actually, I think the high point of the game was probably somewhere between like season 4, 5, or 6, probably. It was probably like kind of peak kind of design where there was a lot of like whatever the season right before they got rid of the runes was I feel like kind of peak
That's
expression.
season 7. The pre-season 8 is when they got rid of runes.
Okay, then like 4 to 7 probably, I think, because it was too antiquated before that and it was just modern enough around that time where I feel like there was a lot of skill expression and there wasn't too many things in the game that precluded you from like picking up other items that were kind of similar, stuff like that.
3, 4, 5, 6 were good years. I would say that the apotheosis of it probably was starting with season 8. I thought that when they reworked the runes into master or runes and masteries into the new runes, I thought that was actually fantastic. I thought they really had a good game design thing going there. They introduced turret plating. I think maybe a year after that. They really had something good going, and then they started to get too cute and lost their direction.
They did not make new ruins, they made new masteries. There were never new ruins.
But they call them runes.
But they're not ruins, they're masteries.
Okay, so go shove it.
We had keystones before when there were runes still in the game, and we have
Mm-hmm.
keystones now. They're just reconfigured masteries.
They act like masteries, but they're called runes, so you can take a hike, buddy.
The closest thing to runes we have are those little tiny ass things in the bottom where you ask for like 8 more adaptive force. Those are your runes now.
Yeah, yeah. Those are your runes. I mean, that is true.
Okay, let's get the hell out of here before this takes an hour and a half and we end up talking about politics.
All right, bye-bye, everyone.
All right, welcome to part 3. Have some internet problems or Discord's freaking out. It's probably my fault since my internet's been really ghetto the last few months. Next up, we got Silas, who's getting more mana. I actually do think he's pretty mana hungry early on. I don't think it's his problem in the late game, though.
Yeah, agreed. He actually does run out of mana in a lot of the early trades early on. It's the only way that he can really fight, and this will let him basically use one more skill every time he comes back from Biss.
Yep.
Of one more skill before he runs Zoom. It's a small buff, but it's a nice buff for him.
Yeah, not a lot to say about that. Next up, we got some stat buffs to Tristana. Let's see, we got less health, more armor per level, and
less magic resist.
MR. Yeah, I don't really know what to think about that.
Basically, they went nowhere with this. This is like some corporate executive basically hiring a bunch of accountants to make it look like the money went to one division instead of another, so that they were like profitable. But really, it didn't do anything to the business.
I'd say 3 of these changes are pretty meaningless. I think the only one of consequence is her gaining base armor, because for an AD carry, any bit of armor to mitigate the flat shred of lethality, I think, is impactful. So I think that's the only one of consequence.
Yeah, but that's 4 base armor. At the beginning of the game, you're probably taking more damage from the support than you are from the ADC.
But Serrated Dirk is like 10 armor spend, basically.
Yeah, later on. But even that, means she's taking maybe like 3% less damage, but she also has 3% less health. This really feels like a nothing burger to me. The one thing I might guess, and I haven't seen it much lately, but have you seen Tristana mid, maybe? I'm thinking maybe they're trying to make her worse against mages?
That was actually a thing like 2 years ago. People were busting out like Tristana and Lucian. Just because they both are so fucking aggro and have such an all-in against the mages. I
haven't seen it recently. But I'm wondering if that could possibly be the case, because as far as ADC Tristana, in the laning phase and really through the entire game, this is nothing. This is like a zero-sum change.
It's not a buff.
Yeah, I really think this is a zero-sum change. The only thing I can guess is they're trying to make her worse against mages mid, and even then, I haven't seen her mid more than once or twice in the last year.
Alright.
That's a weird one.
I would say it's a net nerf instead of power neutral, as you like to say.
Okay. I would say it's completely power neutral myself.
Well, I think the base armor is more impactful in the laning phase, even if the armor growth eventually compensates for that. So that's the part of the game.
They're giving her more armor and more armor growth.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's more impactful.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's no like compensation. The compensation is they're getting rid of the MR and they're getting rid of health.
I hear you.
Okay. So you think it's a buff? I think it's a nothing burger.
Okie dokie. Next up, we got Wukong, and they decided to make his Q cost no mana. That's okay, because it's always up anyway. And then there's like a bug on my screen. I assume this is a change to his W clone thing. The text on my screen is kind of messed up with this ability for some reason.
Warrior Trister?
Yeah.
It says mana cost is reduced to 60 to 40 from 80 to 40. So at the earlier ranks, it costs less mana. So this is just basically more mana for Weaselwoo all around.
Yeah, nobody really plays him top anymore. He's basically just a cheese lord full AD jungler now.
Yeah, it's mostly in the jungler, and more often than not, I actually see him succeed there.
There was a time where this champion was kind of like an off-tank or a bruiser in the old days. Those times. He's moved on to Talon levels of play, though.
Actually in Arena, I've seen him kind of go bruiser with some success as well. But yeah, as far as the Rift, he's more of a burst assassin type.
Okie dokie. That'll do it for the champion changes. Next up, some very inconsequential item changes. Ace, first up, we've got Axiom Arc,
Uh-huh.
which got a big nerf in the other patch that really limited its user base, but now they're giving the baseline effect a big, or I guess a bit of a buff.
Didn't
Now
we
that
decide that? Sorry, go on.
well, the rest of the portion of the ability now scales only with lethality now, where it was strong enough to be picked up as a one-off item on just about any AD champion that
Uh-huh.
wanted to abuse it. Uh, it's probably still the case that this is still kind of not worth getting on anyone that doesn't build like full lethality, though, even with this buff.
Well, I think when we looked at this change, we actually worked out the numbers, and because it gives you 18 lethality in itself, it was like you get one more lethality item, and you're breaking even, and then beyond that, you actually do better, than when it used to refund. Was it 25% of your total cooldown? Was it 30?
I don't remember, but it was good enough to be a one-off item on someone who would not build any other lethality items.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely worse as a one-off now. But what we're going to see with all of these item changes is that everything except Duskblade of Drakthar for Assassins basically picked up a small buff, and then Duskblade got a nerf. So just for that, I think there's going to be a lot of Assassins shifting from Duskblade, which was just so good, to Axiom Arc. And yeah, now that it's giving you a 10% cooldown plus 0.4% per lethality, which just from this one item is another 7%. This really isn't bad.
Well, I'd like to say one thing. You said switch, where Axiom Arc is not a mythic like Duskblade is. So there's no like this or
Now,
that
speaking of
decision.
Duskblade,
Well, you made it sound like both of them are mythics and you have to choose one or the other. One's a legendary and one's a mythic, so. Know what I mean? Oh, for God's sakes. Alright, here we are with part 4 of 16 or 13.16, and last thing I said is you were saying how they would have to switch from Dustblade to Axiom Arc, and before it cut out I explained that only Dustblade is a mythic and Axiom Arc is a legendary, so you don't have to switch. You can still get them
that's
both.
right. That's right. Axiom Arc's not a mythic. I keep thinking it is.
It was Prowler's Claw that got downgraded.
Yes, yes. I don't know why I was thinking that. Sorry, but yeah. So I think Axiom Arc is still looking pretty good in a lot of builds now, especially now that it's 10% lethality, plus 7% just for its baseline value with the lethality it gives you. And I said 10% lethality. I meant the cooldown reduction. Plus bonus for all the other lethality that you stack up. Like, if your champ likes being able to ultimate twice during a fight, this is pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's a cool item. I just feel like it's a little too niche. I wish there was like a version other types of champions could take.
And by the way, for everybody listening to us continually cut out and having to do this video in 4 parts, you should have listened to me at the beginning. I told you to skip this one. But thank you for listening all the way through anyway.
Alright, next up we'll talk about Dustblade now, where the fade and targetability thing now has a 30-second cooldown instead of 10.
Yeah.
That's probably a good thing, but then the bonus damage went down a tiny bit. At one point it was like 25%, then got nerfed to 20, now it's getting hit again. Overall though, for the jump in there and kill someone people, the fact that it just triggers at least once is the important thing.
Yeah, I think this is actually a fairly big nerf to the Duskblade, and I'll tell you why. While generally in a really intense, bursty team fight, you're only going to be able to proc this once anyway, whether it's 30 seconds or 10 seconds. What a lot of the really good assassins do is they can proc it once in a team fight, get out of that team fight, and then as it breaks up and people are trying to back and buy their items, or as they're trying to move on to an objective, they find another target, they pick them off there, and then any of their teammates that were near them, if you've got the Duskblade proccing a second time, you can get away from them. And that was actually a nice thing that a lot of the really good assassins did. And I found them doing that in a lot of my games, and honestly, I thought it was pretty cool. Like, I totally agree that Duskblade was an overpowered item and it needed a nerf of some sort, but they nerfed the coolest part of the item. I would have really liked them to just take away some of the, just a little bit of the stats instead, and let the really good assassins do their cool assassin things.
I think it was just fine. I only thought it was broken prior to like the AD item giant overhaul when it would constantly reset. That's when I thought it was too strong.
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, that's basically as strong as Kha'Zix's ultimate.
Almost every assassin is going this as their mythic, and even a lot of people who are supposed to be fighters, people like Wukong, are taking things like this. It really was just it was crowding out a lot of the other assassin items and even some of the other AD mythics that were not designed for ADCs, obviously. So I'm glad it got nerfed, but I really wish they would have nerfed the stats rather than the coolest part of Duskblade. That's all.
Okie dokie. Next up, we got Prowler's Claw, and I actually like this change. It's such kind of a not a super impactful effect like it used to have, that crazy dash where you would dash through people. Those days are gone. Now this is basically just a I kind of think of it as like just an extra keystone almost, what this item does. That's what it feels like.
Yeah,
you just get bonus damage for dashing. Yeah, I feel like that's what, sudden impact, kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's resetting every few seconds and has obviously a very easy condition for a lot of champions to proc. Yeah, they're just improving it a little bit, and which is kind of what they did with all these other assassin items that are not called Duskblade.
Yep.
That's all I gotta say.
And then lastly, we've got Serpent's Fang and Umbral Glaive, both gained some lethality. These are kind of the Joker utility lethality items that nobody buys anyway. The ones that you find on like Senna and Pike because they're just so poverty stricken. So now they get a little more bang for their buck, but none of the mainstream mid laners ever take these basically.
Yeah, I agree with you in general. Serpent's Fang definitely has some niche uses in certain games. For if you're going against a set that's getting like 400% of his HP as a shield, if you're going against even like a Vex or something like that, can get a pretty big shield. If you can use the Serpent's Fang against a couple champions that are putting really big shields on themselves, it pays off for itself. But I agree.
I don't really think it's good enough at what it does.
They've buffed it a few times over the years, and I think if you find the right team to use it against, it's actually a quite good item as a fifth item or so.
Yeah.
Umbral Glaive, yeah, I don't see that very often. The Blackout assassin item used to be very popular, but once it was moved to Umbral Glaive, hasn't really been seen much. But, worth pointing out, this is more lethality, and if you're using that in combination with Axiom Arc, hey, pretty good.
Yep. Well, that does it for 13.16 finally, and we better get the hell out of here.
Before we have to do a part 5. Yeah, we're out. See ya.
Alright. See you guys next time.